Hi, I'm Tony Northrup, and here's a quick overview on using Photoshop actions. Actions basically play a set of tasks automatically. It's like if you'd ever done programming, it's like a little computer program, a script or a macro. It just does a series of things that would take you a couple of minutes, but it does it quickly for you and automatically. So if you find yourself doing the same 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 things in a row, record them as an action, and then you can play it back. It can be a real time saver. You can also go on the web and get free actions that do cool things, add special effects to your photos. So let's take a look at them. First, I'll just go into Photoshop here, and I have this sample picture opened up. There's a separate pane for action. So if you look in the photography workspace, if you look over here, you'll find actions. Another way, if you don't see it, you can go to Windows and just choose to display actions here, and it will pop up. You can see that Photoshop has a bunch of default actions built in. So for example, to play it, I could select vignette selection here and then hit the play button down here. And well, it threw an error for me that time. Let's try a different one. We can throw a wood frame on here. So I'll select the wood frame action and I'll hit play. And this is a message. It's a warning. It's not an error. It allows me to continue. It wants me to know that it's going to fail if the picture isn't 100 pixels wide and 100 pixels tall. So now you can see Photoshop is just doing some stuff, and it did it automatically. And if I zoom back out here, it adjusted my zoom for me. If I zoom back out, you can see the wood frame action added a wood frame about my picture. Pretty cool, right? One kind of weird thing to know is when you run an action, every step in the action shows up as a separate step in your history. So it doesn't show up as just one item in your history. And the reason I want you to think about that is if you frequently go back into your history to undo things, an action might contain so many steps that it will completely clear out your history, because the history only stores a certain number of steps. So one of the things you might want to do before running an action is to create a snapshot. Some actions will automatically create a snapshot for you. You see that this one did. That's good. If you make your own actions, you might think about that. Make a snapshot first thing, so whoever runs your action can always step back in time and undo it. The default actions aren't really very useful at all. So let's talk about how to actually go on the web and download actions. You can get actions for free, or you can buy them. A lot of people will sell you action packs. In my opinion, most of them are way, way overpriced. So I'm just going to search for free Photoshop actions. It's already in my history there. And let's just say, for example, the first blog. I don't have any association with this. I just happen to know that this one works. So they have a few free actions, and I'll just try this one. And so I'll download it and skip past stupid ads. Okay. So it's downloaded it here for me. And if you're on a Mac or using a different browser, this whole process could be a little bit different. But you can see I downloaded it. It's in my downloads folder, and it comes up as a zip file. And most actions are going to be packaged in a zip file. Even though the action itself has a .atn extension, zip files are just a common way to make files a little bit smaller. So on a Windows computer, I'm going to right click it and then click extract all. And you can see it's going to extract it to some folder for me. You want to make sure that where you extract it to is going to be a permanent place for you, so you can get to that action in the future. So I usually make just a folder within my documents folder. This is my documents folder. So I'll make a new folder called Photoshop Actions. And I'm going to extract it to that folder. Select folder, and then I'll click extract. So you can see now within my documents, Photoshop Actions folder, I have the Cold Nightmare .atn file. This is my action. Anything with a .atn file is an action. So I have this saved in a place. I know where it is. I'm going to go back into Photoshop, and I'm going to load that action into Photoshop. And this is the actions menu. This little set of 4 lines in the upper right corner. It's not a great user interface. It's not at all intuitive. That's where it is. And so you'll click that, and then you'll select load actions here. So I'll select load actions. Once again, I need to go back to my documents folder, Photoshop Actions, and select Cold Nightmare. Now I'll click load. So now you can see there's a new action set. If it shows a folder there, they call that a set, not a folder, because it's Adobe. I'll expand that set, and now I can select the actual action that I just downloaded. And if I clicked this to expand it again, I can see all the steps within the action. And if I wanted to run just part of it, I could do that. I could click that and then click play, and it would start playing from there. But I actually want to run the whole action, so I'll select that, and then I'll just hit play. It worked. If you have a problem with it, try closing the file and reopening it. You can see that this creates just kind of a cool special effect on the picture. It didn't do anything magical. I can go in and see exactly what it did. You can see it duplicates its layer. It runs a high pass filter. It changes the current layer. It adds an adjustment layer. If we go over to the layers panel here, we can see that it even made a layer group. And in here, it's got all these different layers, plus some sharpness in here. So downloading actions is actually a great way to learn Photoshop, because people will kind of make these cool special effects. And if you see one you like, you can dig through it and see exactly what about that action it is that's creating the effect that you like. It's really nice that you can kind of step through it and see what's going on. If you end up getting a lot of actions, I just want to show you this trick. There's a separate mode that makes the actions much easier to see. So I'll click that menu here, and there's button mode. This menu's so long, I just have to find, right at the top, button mode. So now we can see these are actually buttons. So I can just click an action and have that effect take effect. That's a useless one. Now let's talk about how to record your own actions. It's cool to play with other people's actions. The next step, of course, in automating your own workflow is to make your own actions. Later, I'll show you how you can share them with friends and stuff. First, to actually record it, let's say you want to add some vignetting to a photo. Super easy to do, but it could take a little bit of time to open up the dialog box and make the changes. If you're doing it on a regular basis, you might want to automate it. So in the actions pane here, let's get out of button mode. I'm going to make a new action. In fact, the first thing I should do is make a new set. I make this new set. I'll call it Tony's Actions. And then inside that set, I'm going to make a new action. We'll call it Old Timey. You can see here, the set is in actions. I can assign a function key to it. Let's say Shift Control F5 and a color. This color is more important in the buttons mode, but it can be pretty important. And now I'll hit record. Now, to do the vignetting, the way I prefer to do it is to use the camera raw filter. So I'll go to filter and then camera raw filter. And let's use it under lens corrections here. I'll just drag this to the left and just add some heavy vignetting. And then we can do a couple other effects while we're here. Let's increase the vibrance a little bit and up that clarity. There we go. Give them kind of a gritty look, but still plenty of color. And maybe while I'm here, I'll just increase the contrast some by raising the whites and lowering the blacks a little. So I'll click OK, and we can see the action is still recording. The record button is still pressed here. You can see my action here, my action set, and then the first step is here. Just for the sake of having more than one step in the action, let's add some text to it. So I'll add that text and so I'll add that text, and now our action has two separate steps. So I'll hit the stop button because I feel like I'm done. And so now anytime I could go in and open up a different file. Here's some whales. We'll try my filter out on the whales. I'll hit the play button here. There we go. Looks great. Works automatically. It's definitely much faster. There are lots of ways you can tweak the actions that you perform besides just re-recording them. One thing you can do is to reorder actions just by grabbing the action step and moving it up or down. You could also double click one of these to edit it. Let's go back to the original photo here. So I double click that, and now you can see if I wanted to make an adjustment to the action later, if I just decided, oh, this would work much better if I just increase the contrast here a little bit more and increase the shadows a little bit, whatever it is that you wanted to do, maybe you want to warm it up a little, and then click OK. And what I've done is actually modify that existing action. And if I scroll through here, I can expand this and I can see all the settings that are part of the camera raw filter in that step. So you can double click it to modify it. Photoshop will open up a dialog box for you, but you can also just look at what every different setting is actually happening here. Now, if, let's say during playback, I'm going to walk back to the original photo. During playback, you actually want to prompt the user and allow them to tune the settings on your own. Maybe you figure out that as you're running the action, 4 times out of 10, you want to make some other change to the camera raw filter dialog box. Click this little button here. This is the little dialog indicator. And if you have the dialog on, then Photoshop will prompt the user when it gets to that step. It'll still apply the settings, but it will also let them make any changes they want and wait until they click OK to continue. So I've turned the dialog on for the camera raw filter step, and I'll run this action again. So now you can see instead of just applying the changes, it applied the changes, but it's also leaving the dialog box open for me to make some extra changes to it. So I'm going to just make this a little purpley, maybe a little warm it up a little. So if you find yourself tweaking things in the middle of an action, just turn that dialog on. And I'll click OK, and then you can see it went ahead and added my text layer that actually happens after that. Now, earlier you saw when I ran that wood frame action, it prompted me to make sure that the picture was 100 pixels wide. If you want to communicate to the user, you can do that by using a stop. So I'm going to go back to the history here and just reset this. And now I'll add a stop to my old-timey action. I have the action selected there. I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to select Insert Stop. It gives me the opportunity to type a message. Hi, make sure your picture is ready to be old-timey. And if I don't select Allow Continue, then the script just stops and it does not continue. If I do select it, then I get the chance to continue. So I'll make sure that's selected because I don't want to just cause everything to halt, and then I'll click OK. And you can see it added it to the end. So I need to just drag it up to the top here. And now if I select my action and I click Run, it shows me the message. That's a good way to remind the user that they need to do something, warn them that there might be a problem. And we'll look at conditionals in a little bit. You can actually use the action to determine if a state is true and then show the user something only if it's true. So I'll click Continue just to allow that script to run out the rest of the way. If I were to click Stop, then it would stop. Now that you know a little bit about actions, you can actually edit existing actions, not just by reordering steps, but by deleting steps. So earlier when I ran that wood frame action, it prompted me to make sure my picture was 100 pixels wide and 100 pixels tall. And I don't ever work with pictures that are less than 100 pixels. Like, what is that? Like 0.1 megapixels? It's a really small picture. So I feel like I can safely just turn off that warning. I'm a daredevil like that. So I know it's a dialog box because it's interacting with me. And when I look at the wood frame script, I can see the first step is play action frame channel. So frame channel here does have a dialog. So you can see actions can call other actions, and that's a really powerful tool. So I'm going to select the stop action here because that's what's giving me that message. If I double click it, you can see image size must be a minimum of 100 pixels. So I'll select it and then I'll click this trash can. Delete the selection, yes. Now that's gone. I've modified the original action in Photoshop. So now I'll go back to the wood frame action and run it again. There we go. It added in a wood frame for me and it didn't prompt me. I actually modified a built-in action to make it more efficient. That's powerful too, because once you get into actions, you'll find lots of great actions, but often they won't be quite perfect for you. So it's really useful if you can at least look at the action and make little modifications. But now you know how you can cause a script to pause, how you can make dialog boxes appear so you can customize it to each individual picture, and how you can remove things that might be annoying. I also want to show you how to use conditionals in an action. If you've ever written a program, maybe in school, you took like a basic programming course, you might remember if, then, else statements. If some condition is true, then do this, otherwise, else, do this other thing. That's in a very simple way. Photoshop actions do support that. So first I'll go back and just reset this picture to the beginning. And then I'll go to my own old-timey action here. And I'm going to click the menu box up here and then select Insert Conditional. And these are the entire list of conditions that you can use. There are not many conditions. You can see layer is background, layer is adjustment layer. This is whatever the current selected layer is. Document depth, document has a selection. So maybe you want to make sure that the document does not have anything selected. Maybe that's just a requirement of how your script works. We can put that in. So I'll select document has a selection. And what I want to do is, if the document has a selection, then I'll tell the user that's not okay. So you know what? Better yet, we'll just fix the problem for the user. If the document has a selection, then we'll clear the selection. So if document has a selection, what you'll probably do here is, what you'll always do here is play another action. So the first thing we need to do is actually make the action that's going to run if the user does have some selection. So we'll just click OK, and that will erase it because we didn't ask the condition to do anything. And now we'll make another new script that just clears the current selection. So it's currently recording because I just made it so it automatically records. And all I need to do is, well, first, I can't select the option deselect because there's nothing selected. So a different way to do that is to click this little menu item and then choose Insert Menu Item. And now you can see now it's an option because now it's thinking, oh, this is a script. I don't have to actually worry about the current state of it. So select, deselect. You can see it's added that in. And just so we know it's working, I'm also going to add a stop message in here. And we'll allow the user to continue. Okay, so going back to my old-timey action here, let's get rid of this stop message so that we're not annoyed with it. I just made that part of the script because I forgot to stop it, which is okay. Now we know you have to stop it first, and we'll delete that command in the last set of it. So inside the old-timey script, I'm going to add my conditional. If the document has a selection, then play action, clear selection. That's all we have to do, and I'm going to make sure this happens first. So I'm going to reorder that. Now I can play the old-timey action. And it ran fine because the document did not have a selection. But let's back up. We'll go back to the original document. This time I'm just going to select something and rerun the action, and we'll see if the condition works. Okay. Next time, make sure nothing is selected, and it prompts me to continue. And you can see it cleared the selection there, and then the action continued. So that was a really rudimentary example. You can do a lot of complex things with conditions and these sort of subroutines that other actions can become. If you have multiple different actions that do the same set of 5 or 6 steps, then it would be smart to make that its own action and have those actions call these kind of sub-actions. There's not a great way to organize these. In most programming languages, things like subroutines are very well developed and very structured, and it's all kind of unstructured. In Photoshop, actions are just actions, and they all kind of happen at the same level. But you can get it done, especially if you have a little bit of programming savvy. Now let's talk about how to actually share actions with other people. Let's say I want to share my old-timey action with somebody. You can do that. I'll select my entire set here, and I'll click this menu item, and then I'll click Save Actions. Now it's going to prompt me for where I want to save it. It suggested the name Tony's Actions in my Photoshop Actions folder, so that's all kind of perfect. I'll click Save here. And if we go into Explorer, we can see all of that is encapsulated in Tony's Actions.atn. So let's go into Photoshop, and I'll just delete these so that we can re-import them. Click in the trash can item, delete the action. Now let's hit that menu and load actions. Select Tony's Actions and click Load. And you can see the entire set came in with both my main action and my kind of subroutine there. So it's easy for you to share a .atn file, either to synchronize your actions across multiple computers or just to give it to a friend, or heck, maybe you made an awesome action and you actually want to sell it. People pay a lot of money for actions for some reason. That about wraps it up. I hope you find it useful. Actions can be confusing because they're not really well implemented in Photoshop. It could be much more user-friendly. But proper use of actions can not only improve the final product that you create, but it can really speed your workflow. And that means you spend less time in front of the computer and more time actually shooting. Hope it helped. Thanks.